Hello and welcome to this episode of my tutorial video series. The subject of this video is financial management and the topic is Gordon's dividend model, that is MJ Gordon's dividend model. This episode is basically part of a series of videos on dividend theory. In my earlier video on Walter's model, I have discussed the model, that is the Walter's model, what are the assumptions of Walter's model and what are the limitations of Walter's model. Now in this video we shall learn about Gordon's dividend model. Gordon, that is MJ Gordon and Walter, held almost similar view that the dividend policy of a firm indeed influences the price of stock of the company. Now, Walter emphasized on the DP ratio, that is the dividend payout ratio, and in Gordon's model the focus is on the retention percentage, that is how much percentage of the earnings is reinvested. Now, all the assumptions of Gordon's dividend model are similar to that in Walter's model. And what are the assumptions? Number one, the market is perfect, that is, the company is operating in a capital market where all the information about all the securities are known to the prospective investors. Number one. Number two, equity finance is the only source of finance available to a company. There is no existence of debt capital in the capital market. Number three, the investment in capital projects, that is capex, is done by financing through retained earnings. No external equities or other finances are procured by the company to invest in capital projects. Next, the internal rate of return of the company and the cost of capital remain constant. Next, a company is assumed to operate in perpetuity, that is, the company has an infinite life. So these are the assumptions of Gordon's dividend model, which we saw in Walter's model too. Now, one unique thing of Gordon's dividend model is BR. I have put asterisk before BR. The formula, the structure is P equals to E into 1 minus B divided by K minus BR, where P equal to price of stock, B equals to retention percentage, E equals to earning per share, K equals to cost of capital, that is cost of equity capital. There is no debt capital in the capital structure of the firm. In fact, debt capital does not exist in the capital market. If B is retention percentage, then 1 minus B equals to the DP ratio. That is the percentage of earning that is distributed by the company to the shareholders in the form of dividends. R is the internal rate of return of the company. Now come to BR. BR is the idea that Gordon introduced in his model. BR is the growth rate of dividend, that is G. G is the growth rate of dividend. In this model, Gordon assumed that a company's dividend payment grows at a constant rate. So G is held as constant. constant rate, right? Now G is made of B and R. B into R equals to G. Okay. So R cannot be 0. R is not equal to 0. R is not negative. R is positive always. Correct? Because the company certainly has a cost of equity. So G can be 0 if B is 0. The growth rate of the company becomes 0 when B is 0. And what is B? B is the retention percentage. If the company does not retain any money out of profit earned for reinvestment, then the company cannot grow, because the company has no other opportunity to finance capital projects, because the company is not supposed to issue new capitals, new equity shares in the market. Neither the company is allowed to procure debt finance, as debt is not available in the capital market. So G can be 0 if B is 0, that is retention percentage is 0. So G is 0 if B equals to 0. That means the company is not growing. The growth rate of dividend is 0 of the company. Correct? Now come to this formula. Let us understand how the price is computed with this. Come to numerator first. What is the numerator? E into 1 minus B. Now E is what? E is earnings per share. E equals to EPS. And 1 minus B equals to percentage of dividend. That is DP ratio, dividend payout ratio. So if E equals to 100 and DP ratio is equal to 10%, therefore D equals to E into DP ratio equals to 100 into 10% equals to 10. So E into 1 minus B, that is the numerator of this fraction, is basically the dividend. E into 1 minus B is the dividend. And if you consider BR, it is the growth rate, then the Gordon's dividend formula is popularly known as D divided by R minus G. This is the popular formula of Gordon's dividend, where you can determine the price of the stock of the company. Now to discuss the dividend theory and how Gordon's dividend model is applied with the dividend theory, we must use this formula so that we can change B and R to see how the price of the stock is being influenced with changes in IRR and change in retention percentage. That we cannot get directly from this formula. This formula is applicable basically to determine the price of the stock of the company. Correct? Now another thing very important and very interesting to understand, that I am erasing this part, okay? I am erasing this part. You see, R must be greater than G. R must be greater than G. If R equals to G, that is the internal rate of return and the growth rate of dividend of the company become equal, then what will happen? Then P will be equal to D by R minus G, that is D by R minus G will be D by 0, that is infinity. In that case, price will be infinity. So it is basically leading us to a nonsense conclusion that price is infinity. Very funny. Now consider more funnier thing. If G is more than R, then what will happen? If G is more than R, then P equals to some minus, isn't it? D by something, whatever it may be. So price is becoming negative. That means the company is gifting shares to the shareholders with cash bonus. The company is saying the shareholder, you don't have to pay. You take my share and I am paying you money. So it is also very funny. This cannot be. Now, if we consider the growth rate is more than R and we forget this formula, then what will happen? Then, if the company operates in perpetuity, then in infinity, the earning per share of a company will be more than the total global output. So, what funnier scenario will arise? If the growth rate is more than the internal rate of return, then in infinity, the earning per share of the company will be more than the global output. So, R must be greater than 0. This is essential for Gordon's dividend model to be true. Correct? Now, we shall take a numerical example to see how changes in IRR and B are influencing the price of the stock of the company. I am erasing this part, okay? We are taking this data. Earnings equals to rupees 10. K, what is K? K is cost of equity capital, because there is only equity capital in the capital structure of the company. There is no debt capital and there is no financial leverage. So K is 10%, which is the cost of equity. Internal rate of return, we have considered 15%, 8% and 10% to suit a growth company, a declining company and a normal company. And B, we have considered two slabs, 0% and 6%. You can consider 0%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% and so on. But I have taken only two slabs, 0% to 60%, to focus on the main issue, that is when B increases, then what happens, or if B falls, then what happens. B can move from 0 to 60% or from 60% to 0%. Okay, this is the reason I have considered only two slabs. You can consider more than two slabs, 0%, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80% and so on. Right? But both of us will come to the same conclusion. And remember one thing, that 100% retention is not possible in Gordon's dividend model. That is, Gordon's dividend model does not support 100% retention. Why? If B is 100%, then if B is 100%, then what will happen? Then P equals to E into 1 minus 100% divided by K minus BR. Now what is 1 minus 100%? 1 minus 100% means 1 minus 1 by K minus BR equals to 0 by K minus BR. So 100% retention is not supported by Gordon's dividend model. Okay. Sorry. So now we are taking a numerical example with 3 farm scenario, that is a growth farm, a declining farm and a normal farm. Growth farm, declining farm and last one is normal farm. Now in growth farm, R is greater than K, as we have learned in Walter's model. A growth farm is characterized by R being greater than K, that is internal rate of return is more than cost of equity of the company. And we have considered 15% R for this growth farm. So here R equals to 15%, K equals to 10%. K is held constant, right? Now for a declining farm, R is less than K. So we have taken R 8% to suit this declining farm. So here R equals to 8% and K equals to 10%, same as in the case of growth farm. And in case of normal farm, R is equal to K. So we have considered 10% IRR to suit this normal farm where R and K are same, 10% and K equals to 10%. Okay. Now here we are considering B equals to 0%, B equals to 0%, B equals to 0%. That is, retention percentage is 0. This means the company is paying all the profits to the shareholders as dividend. And remember, it is also assumed in Gordon's dividend model that all dividends are paid in cash. Correct? Now we compute the value of BR to put here. So what is BR here? BR equals to 0% into 15% equals to 0. Here also BR equals to 0% into 8% equals to 0. And here BR equals to 0% into 10% equals to 0. Correct? Now let us calculate the price of the stock. P equals to, this is growth farm, this is declining farm, and this is normal farm. P equals to E into 1 minus B divided by K minus BR, and E is 10, here consider 10, and it is remaining constant. So P equals to 10 into 1 minus B is 0% divided by K is 10%. 10% minus, what is BR? BR is 0. Correct? Equals to 10 into 1 divided by 10% equals to 10 by 10% equals to 100. Correct? So, in case of growth firm, where R is greater than K, we have considered R as 15% and K is held constant at 10%, that is the cost of equity is 10% and internal rate of return is 15%, and we have considered retention percentage is 0, that is B equals to 0%, so BR equals to 0. So price of stock is E into 1 minus B. E is equal to 10, so 10 into 1 minus 0% because B is 0 divided by K. K is cost of capital, cost of equity capital, that is 10% minus BR. Now BR is 0, so P becomes 100. Now we see what happens in case of declining firm. Here P equals to E remains same, 10 into 1 minus D remains same, 0%, it is 0% divided by K minus BR, that is 10% minus 0%, okay, that is equal to 10 into 1 divided by 10% equals to 100. Correct? So, in case of declining firm, R is less than K. We have considered R as 8% and K is 10%. So R is less than K, and B, that is retention percentage, is 0. So BR is 0, and price of stock is P equals to E into 1 minus B. E equals to 10. 1 minus B is 0%. Divided by K minus BR. Now BR is 0. We have already calculated BR is 0. So 10% minus 0%, K is 10%. So it becomes 10 into 1 divided by 10% equals to 100. Right? Now let us come to normal firm where R is equal to K. We have considered R and K both as 10%. B is 0%, so BR is also 0 here. So what is the value of P? That is price of stock. 10 into 1 minus 0% whole divided by 10% minus 0 equals to 10 into 1 divided by 10% equals to 100. Correct? Now we are increasing B from 0% to 60%. So here B equals to 60%. B equals to 60%. Here too B equals to 60%. Then let us calculate BR. BR equals to, what is BR? BR is retention percentage into internal rate of return, that is R. Now R is here 15% into 60%. Here R is 8%, so BR equals to 8% into B is 60%. Here considered 60% retention, so 8% into 60%. And here BR equals to, consider R as 10%. So 10% into 60%. Correct? So this is 15 into 60% equals to 0.0900. Okay, here BR equals to 0.0480, and here BR equals to 0.0600. Correct? So these are the new BRs. Previous BRs were 0, 0, 0, that is at 0% retention, and at 60% retention BR is 0.0900 for growth firm, 0.0480 for declining firm, and 0.0600 for a normal firm. Now let us calculate what the price comes to. So P equals to 10 into 1 minus B is 60%. So 1 minus 60% divided by K minus BR. K is 10% minus, we have calculated BR 0.0900, that is 0.09, equals to 10 into 1 minus 60% is 0.40 or 40%, and 10% 0.10 minus 0.09, 0.10 minus 0.09, this comes to 0.01. So this is 4 by 0.01. So 4 divided by 0.01, it comes to 400. Correct? So price of stock of the growth firm is 400 when retention percentage is 6%, 60%, and IRR is 15%. Correct? Yeah. Yeah, right. Now come to declining firm. What is the value of stock in case of declining firm? So P equals to 10 remains same, 10 into 1 minus 60% because retention percentage is 60, divided by K is cost of capital 10% minus BR. What is BR here? 0.0480. 10% minus 0.0480. So this is 10 into 1 minus 60%, that is 10 into 0.4 divided by 10% means 0.10. So 0.10, 0.10 minus 0.0480 equals to, this becomes 4, numerator becomes 4, and this one is 0.10 minus 0.0480, 0.80. That becomes to 0.052. So 4 divided by 0.052, that is equal to 4 divided by 0.052. The value of stock becomes 76.92 or approximately 77. I rounded off to 77. Correct? Now come to normal form. What is the value of stock for normal form? 10 into 1 minus 60% whole divided by 10% minus beer. What is beer here? 0.0600. 0.0600. Numerator remains same because the retention percentage is same 60% and E remains same. So the numerator remains same at 4 divided by 0.10 minus 0.0600 equals to 4 divided by, let us see what it comes to, 0.10 minus 0.06, it comes to 0.04. 4 divided by 0.04 equals to 4 divided by 0.04 remains 100. Correct? Now let us see what has happened. You see, retention percentage has increased from 0 to 60%. Price of stock has increased from 100 to 400. That is, price of stock has increased by 4 times. It was 100, now it is 400. Why? Because retention percentage has increased. For a growth firm, if B increases, price increases. So okay, growth firm, B increases, price also increases. Price means price of stock. Now let us see what has happened in case of the declining firm. Here the retention percentage has increased from 0 to 60%. That is, B is increasing. And what is the impact on value of stock? You see, value of stock has fallen from 100 to 77. So in case of the declining firm, just the opposite has happened to what happened to the growth firm. In case of growth firm, as retention percentage increases, other things remaining same, price of stock also increases. In case of declining firm, where R is less than K, that is, internal rate of return is less than the cost of equity, when retention percentage increases, here it has increased from 0 to 60%, price of stock has fallen from 100 to 77. So for a declining firm, as B increases, price of stock falls. Right? Yeah. Now let us look at the normal form. What has happened in case of normal form as a result of change in B from 0 to 60%? This is normal form where R is equal to K. We have considered R as 10%. K has already been held constant at 10%. So R is 10% and K is 10%. The retention percentage has increased from 0 to 60%. As a result, is there any change in price of stock? Answer is no. You see, when B has increased from 0% to 60%, price of stock remains same. There is no change in price of share of the normal form. That is where R is equal to K. So for normal form, as B increases, price remains constant. P is constant. There is no upward or downward movement of price. In case of growth form, with upward movement of retention percentage, there is upward movement in price of stock. In case of declining form, with upward movement of retention percentage, there is downward movement of price of stock. And in case of the normal form, due to upward movement in retention percentage, the price of stock is not affected at all. Correct? So a growth firm will always try to increase the retention percentage. The growth firm will always try to increase retention percentage. Because, see, in the other way, if retention percentage falls from 60% to 0%, suppose previously these growth firms, retention percentage was 60%. Then price of stock was 400. Now the company has decided to retain nothing, to have no retained earnings in the balance sheet. That is, the company wants to distribute all the profits to the shareholders in the form of dividends. So the firm has decided to make B 0. As a result, the stock price of the company is falling. So what should be the dividend policy of this growth firm? That is the main purpose of models as derived by either Walter or Gordon, to understand what policy a firm should follow as regards the dividend payment. These models are basically built up to measure the intrinsic value of shares. That is, what should be the actual value of a stock. Stocks of public companies are traded in the stock exchange, where the market value of the stock is reflected, not the intrinsic value. To understand the intrinsic value, these models are invented. If an investor knows what is the intrinsic value of a share, then he or she can judge whether the share is undervalued or overvalued. Say, for example, this growth firm is taken a policy decision to make 60% retention, as a result of which price has become 400. Now, if this growth firm's stock is traded in the stock exchange at, say, 500. If stock of the growth firm is traded in the stock exchange at rupees 500 per share, then it is clear that this stock is overvalued. This stock is not worth 500 because the intrinsic value is 400. So investor can get useful insight about the value of the stock. Okay. So for declining firm, as retention percentage increases, value of stock falls. So what should be the dividend policy of a declining firm? The dividend policy of a declining firm should be 0% retention. That is, there is no point for the firm to retain any part of the profit, because if the company retains the profit, that is the profit remains undistributed in the balance sheet, the company won't be able to provide sufficient return to the shareholders, because the shareholders themselves can earn 10% profit by getting the dividends in cash. Whereas if the company keeps the undistributed profit in the balance sheet and reinvests that profit in new projects, then the company is able to earn only 8%. So the shareholders themselves will demand, no, you don't have to pay any dividend. You don't have to retain any money. Give us back our dividends, isn't it? So the dividend policy of a declining firm will be to make 0% retention, to pay all the profits as dividends to the shareholders. Correct? Now, if the company, the declining company, increases retention percentage, that is, the company retains 60%, that is, the company is investing 60% of profit into business, then the shareholders' value will fall. Value for the shareholders, that is, value of the firm will fall. So that won't be a prudent corporate policy on behalf of the management of this declining firm. So what would be the policy? The policy of the firm would be to have 0% retention and pay all the profits as dividend to the shareholders. Correct? Now, look at this normal firm. The change in retention percentage, that is, any change in dividend policy of the firm, does not affect the stock value. When the retention percentage is increased from 0 to 60, the price of stock remains constant at 100. That means it is meaningless for the firm to design any policy of dividend payment, because it makes no difference whether the firm retains profit to reinvest in the company or the firm pays all the dividends out to the shareholders, because R is equal to K. The amount of money the shareholders will get by reinvesting into the company is same to the money the shareholders would gain by reinvesting themselves in other opportunities, which is K. So retention or no retention hardly makes any difference so long as price of stock is concerned. So for a normal firm, there is no dividend policy. Correct? So this is our Gordon's dividend model, developed by Professor M.J. Gordon. It is similar to Walter's model because Gordon held similar view that of Walter, that a dividend policy of a company influences its stock price, and the unique thing introduced by Gordon in the dividend theory is BR, that is the growth rate of dividend. And here the growth rate is held as constant, and growth rate of dividend consists of B and R, the multiplication of B and R. And what is B? B is the retention percentage, that is the percentage of profit the company is not giving out to the shareholders. Instead, that part of profit is reinvested in the business, in the capital projects of the business in order to grow. That is B. And what is R? R is the internal rate of return of the company. So multiplication of B and R gives us the growth rate of the dividend. Gordon has introduced this in this model. Right? Now the basic formula is P equals to E into 1 minus B divided by K minus BR, where P is price of stock, B is retention percentage, E is earning per share, K is cost of equity. There is no other type of cost, other type of capital in the capital structure. There is no debt capital or preference shares, because preference share capital is hybrid capital, and in order to eliminate the effect of financial leverage, both Walter and Gordon excluded debt in the capital structure of the company. Correct? If B is the retention percentage, then 1 minus B is the DP ratio, that is the dividend payout ratio. R is the internal rate of return of the company, that is the money the company can earn by investing in its own business. And BR is the growth rate. Now we have considered three firms: growth firm, declining firm, and normal firm. We have taken this data. And we have considered two slabs of retention percentage, that is 0% and 60%, to see what happens if the retention percentage either increases, that is it moves in this way, or decreases, that is it moves this way. So in this slab, that is at B equals to 0%, price of stock of the growth firm is 100, price of stock of declining firm is 100, price of stock of a normal firm is 100, and as the retention percentage increases from 0 to 60, that is 60% of the profit is retained by the company for reinvestment in capital projects. Other things remaining constant, that is the ceteris assumption. While solving this problem, nothing is actually constant, but it is held constant to solve this problem. So when the retention percentage is increased from 0 to 60%, the price of stock of the growth firm becomes 400, the price of stock of the declining firm becomes 77, and the price of stock of the normal firm remains constant at 100. So we can come to the conclusion that for a growth firm, when B is increasing, price of stock is increasing, that is when retention percentage is increasing, that is DP ratio is falling. B increases means 1 minus B is falling. This is falling. Then P will increase. For a declining firm, if B increases, that is 1 minus B falls, P also falls. For a normal firm, as B increases, that is 1 minus B falls. The stock price remains constant. There is no change in price of stock of the normal firm when the retention percentage changes or the DP ratio changes. Correct? So these firms' dividend policy should be to retain as much profit as possible to maximize the price of stock. In case of a declining firm, the dividend policy of the firm should be to minimize the retention percentage, that is to distribute as much profit as possible as dividends to the shareholders to maximize the price, maximize the profit. Sorry, maximize the price of stock, not profit, sorry. Maximize the price of stock. And in case of normal firm, there is no dividend policy because dividend payment either 0 or 100% does not make any difference on the stock price of the company. That is the intrinsic value of the stock of the company. Okay? Yeah, that's it. So this is all about Gordon's dividend model. Yeah. We have considered 3 forms: growth form, declining form, and normal form. And we have seen how the changes in retention percentage of profit influences the price of stock of a growth firm, of a declining firm, and of a normal firm. Okay? So I think this is enough for this video. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please do like our channel, please do subscribe our channel, and thank you for watching this video. Goodbye and stay well.